Hi, it's King Lizzard. My favourite time of the week, Grid Autosport and Racenet challenges. Just trying to plough through some of these, get myself some scores down so I can grab some of that lovely XP and cash towards some new vehicles. Current race I'm doing is a time attack, so basically getting the best lap time to put me in one of those 4 medal slots: bronze, silver, gold, or preferably platinum, of course. I'm actually on the Autodrome, and this is the GP circuit of the Autodrome. Must admit, this week's challenges are quite brutal. I don't know whether those guys watched my video last week about saying how I was always able to get platinums in street, but this week I can't even get bronze at the moment. Very, very difficult challenges. So if you're up for a bit of a slog and you think you can, you think you've got what it takes, get on those Racenet challenges this week. Really, really difficult street race. Very enjoyable. It's it's some fast-paced cars. They've got the 177 in there from Aston Martin. You've got I can't ever pronounce this car, the Pagani, I think it's Hoira or something like that. As well as some other fast beasts. The MP 12C, the McLaren, I believe, is in there, and also one other flavour. I think it's a Dodge Viper of some sort. It's GT. But yeah, it's a brutal racing. This is my first go on this, so let's see how we do. You'll have to forgive me. I've not been feeling great the last week or so, so I haven't been putting much voice to my video. So obviously, my preference is to try and commentate. Obviously, if you don't want me to commentate, let me know. I'll quite happily watch or put these things together without saying much. In terms of tips, for anyone that has got Grid Autosport, wants to get into Racenet challenges, it's all a matter of just practice, really. I am actually an auto driver, so I'm not actually doing manual gearing. If you're doing manual gearing, I mean, that's the best way to drive in any racing game, because obviously you're going to get the most out of the car and get, it's going to be easier for you to get times and stuff. Because I suffer from depression, my brain doesn't work so well, and I struggle with gear changing and driving and doing everything else, which is why I stick to auto at the moment. I do occasionally drop into manual, but not so much for this game, more Forza 5. But if you really want to, get better times, and you're a pretty good driver anyway, you'll probably thrash my time in no time. Given that I'm an auto driver versus manual, which always has the benefit in terms of driving the car. But for those of you that are starting out, auto is probably the best way to go, like me. Just get used to the tracks through repetition of driving those tracks, various flavours. This Grid Autosport game is not one of the easiest driving games to get into. There is you do need to get a feel for how it drives. It is different from quite a few races I've played. It's kind of somewhere between Grid and Grid 2 in terms of driving mechanic. It has got a simmy feel to it, but at the same time it does have a very small flavouring of arcade driving chucked in there for good measure. So into this long straight, always brake around the 100 mark, I find, and then power out of these two corners, preferably not doing what I just did, which is hitting that white line. And then again, just try and let it roll around that corner with a good bit of speed as you enter. Now I'm speeding out of this corner, so I know there's a straight coming up. Got a plus there. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, given the mistake I made earlier. Start braking about now. Bit of a roll, bit of an acceleration. Bit tight there, a bit too close to that grass for my liking. We're coming into another one. I start braking about here, let her roll around, put it down again, accelerator full on, keep going around the corner, straight into the deep apex there, and then we're gonna bit tap on the brake there, and then we're going to slow it down a bit more. We're down to 47 mile an hour there. Foot to the floor. We can keep it to the floor now. Start slowing her down. 54 mile an hour. 43 mile an hour. We can push this corner, let off a little bit. You start feeling yourself going wide there, which is very easy to do. You want to stay as tight to these inside lines of the corners as you can, because that will save you drifting out onto the grass. Once you hit the grass in this game, it's painful. You know, it will punish you for it and pull you over to the left side, and then bang, your time is gone. So this is looking a bit more promising. No, it isn't. No, that corner I messed up. I got gold. I'm not that unhappy. You know, that'll do for my first test. I might go back to that at some point, have a go at the platinum again. How far off was I? 6 seconds. There's a fair bit of time. I did make some obvious mistakes though, so let's have a look at the replay there. I always love watching these replays, apart from when it goes to that roof bonnet mode that it just looks weird. It doesn't look right. I mean, it may be how it looks from a car, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's just not a nice view. Still sort of astounded at how nice Grid Autosport looks. I mean, I actually think, you know, going back to Grid 2 the other day and looking at Grid 2 and then this, Grid 2 actually looks that little bit sharper, a lot more colour, a lot more vibrant. But this game, you know, for an Xbox 360 game, is a hell of an accomplishment for Codemasters. Absolutely love it to bits. It is more difficult. You do find yourself going back time and time again, you know, to try and get a better time or try and win the race. But it is definitely a challenge. It's, you know, there's no pushover. And in this game, I think I'm driving it as it comes. I think I'm driving it normal mode, and it's definitely not easy in normal mode. Whereas Forza 5 now, I'm driving unbeatable AI and have been for the last couple of months. And you know, they do push me to the limits, those cars. If you make a mistake, you're losing the race. So I'd hate to think what this game is like at some of the harder difficulties. It's going to be quite brutal, I think. I think it's the first lap that was a relatively clean lap. Obviously I didn't have that rolling start benefit. You know, you're never ever going to get your best time on your first lap. You're always going to get it at least on the second or the third, but straight into this straight here. Chevrolet's probably one of the better of the 4 cars you can get to choose for this Racenet challenge. I find it's just, I don't know, it's just got, it just feels a bit more controllable, and it's also got the acceleration you want out of the corners, as well as the top speed for the straights over the other cars in that choice. I'm not saying you can't do it in those cars. I'm just saying this is the car that, you know, I find, you know, does the job. All I'm doing on those corners is, you know, most of you are probably going to scoff and say, oh, we know how to do that, but all I'm doing on those corners is when I start to slide, obviously I'm steering into that slide and bringing it back again. Hence you see a lot of flick from the wheels there as I'm going into corners, and you'll see some reverse action sometimes. It's just practice, you know, it becomes second nature, much like a martial art does. The more you practice it, you know, the more it becomes second nature and sinks in and becomes a natural thing for you to do, you know, when you're racing. This is that view I was talking about. It looks really weird. Into the final straight. Third lap and final lap. A little bit unclean on that corner. That was nicely taken, not too much slide. You know, the more slide you have, the less time you're going to get out of your drive, so always try and control your slide. Although it's fun and we all like doing it, when you're doing time attacks it really doesn't help. Goes against you in a big way the more slide you put in the corners. Bit untidy there on that corner. Quite tight, but would have cost me a little bit of speed there. A little bit of slide there, nothing too major. A little bit of slide, but you know, acceptable. That went too wide. That cost me time there. Bit untidy there at the top of the apex. Straight to the finish. Oh, weird, I don't think it gave us the right view there, but I definitely screwed up on one of the first corners there, I think, if I remember rightly. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll have another dig shortly.